right now. China's proposed tariffs clearly dragging on the market. And look, just look, who is our guest this morning. Put him on. Please. There you go. I know that man. Everybody knows this man. Let me say right from the get-go, Larry Kudlow is an old colleague, friend of mine, and I think he's a truly great guy. And he's the new Chief Economic Advisor to the President. All right, Larry, let's wade right into it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Talk's cheap, Larry. Talk's cheap. Now, is this a trade war? Because that's what the market's worried about.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And let me just say right at the top, number one, blame China, not President Trump, because they've been going on for many years. Trump is really the first president to fight back and to put a shot across the bow at stealing intellectual property rights, technology transfers, high barriers, investment limitations, high tariffs. This stuff is really not just unfair, it's unlawful. It's outside the boundaries of the WTO. Every country in the world knows this. Every analyst knows this is the case. Somebody's got to deal with it. President Trump is going to deal with it. There's no trade war here. What you've got is the early stages of a process that will include tariffs, comments on the tariffs, then ultimate decisions and negotiations. There's already back-channel talks going on. So look, I understand the stock market's anxiety. I get that. But on the other hand, don't overreact. We'll see how this works out. My view, Stu, look, you know, I'm a growth guy. I'm a Reagan supply-side growth guy. I think that at the end of this whole process, the end of the rainbow, there's a pot of gold. And if you open up that pot, you will see better economic growth, more trading going on, improved wages for both sides. Anytime you lower barriers, and that's the key, the president will say this, lower barriers is the key, don't raise the barriers. Anytime you do that, it's good for growth. It's good for American growth and American workers. It's good for China growth. It's good for the rest of the world's growth. Okay. And that's the intention here. This is a growth play, Stu Varney. I want to make that as clear as I can.
Okay, the pot of gold that you talk about, yeah, it's growth, lowering barriers. But the pot of gold surely is also to get China to stop stealing our intellectual property and change the way it takes over our technology. Now, how do you do that? I understand it's a process of negotiation, but how do you get them just knock it off, stop this theft of intellectual property?
Well, look, this is part of the process. And I'm not a fan of tariffs. I'm a free trader by and large, but I think the president is completely right to take these actions. Now, China is going to have its own tariff process. Bear in mind, Stu, these are just the first proposals, okay? In the United States, at least, we're putting it out for comment. It's going to take a couple months. I doubt if there'll be any concrete actions for several months. We'll see how that plays out. Nothing concrete has actually happened. These are proposals. But the message is clear. China has got to stop these unfair and illegal trading violations. They must. They've done it for years. They're operating outside the WTO. You know, part of the process here is the United States is going to the World Trade Organization. And I also I'd be very surprised if we didn't have huge backing. I call it a trade coalition of the willing. I think other nations around the world are going to join the USA, not only in tariff complaints, but also in WTO complaints. So I think this is right, fair. Trump's putting his cards on the table. He's standing up for this country, but he's also standing up for better world trade. See, that's the thing. He regards himself, this is something people have missed. He said this, he said it to me, he said it to the public. President Trump regards himself as a free trader. I do too. But the path to free trade, real free trade, must include tremendous reforms into stopping these illegal and unfair trading practices, which you mentioned. Stealing intellectual property rights, technology transfers. China has a lot of tariffs on our products going in. They have a lot of barriers. So this has got to stop. It's a free trade action at the end of the day, which is pro-growth. but we're going to have to grind it out and let the rest of the world know that President Trump in the USA means business.
I take it that there are talks going on under the surface. I take it we've got a team in place, they've got a team in place. What's the mood between the two? Because obviously both sides realize that there's no win in a real trade war. So what's the mood? I mean, is there a realization that this thing has to come to a conclusion?
What I can say here is that President Trump has a very good relationship, as you know, Stu, with President Xi, and also with President Xi's sub-cabinet or cabinet advisors. And we will all be involved in these discussions over a period of time. So I don't want to make any predictions. I don't want to make any descriptions. I'm just saying that it's an unusually good relationship between the U.S. and China and between the two heads of states, and I regard that as very positive, very hopeful.
The President Xi does not want to lose face. He cannot back down publicly. He can't do that.
Well, I don't know. Backing down is kind of a funny way to put this. This is business. This is the business of government and the business of business. And it's not a question of backing down. We have a case against them. And I think the rest of the world agrees with the United States. I think President Trump is leading the rest of the world on this, frankly. So it's not a question of backing down. It's a question, for example, of getting China back in conformity with international trade laws. Right? That's not backing down. That's just taking steps to be law-abiding. And I think China has, as the president has said, the United States has made bad deals in the past. We've not stood up to them in the past. We must, and we will now. Trump has, the backbone and the courage to take this leadership position. That's the way I look at it.
Larry, at the top of the hour, I editorialized about the president's beef with Amazon, and I concluded that part of the trouble between Amazon and the president was personal between President Trump and Jeff Bezos, owner of the Washington Post, a Trump-hating machine. Would you comment on that?
I think the president's intent here is to develop a level playing field between online retailers and land-based retailers with respect to taxes and other issues. I think that's his intent. Create a level playing field. There's always been confusion. Positive steps have been made in some cases. The Supreme Court's going to make a ruling very soon on this that will, again, move towards the level playing field. There was a time when we wanted, the United States, as a matter of policy, wanted to protect nascent internet businesses by keeping down the tax burden, but that time is long gone. So I just think the level playing field is the best way to look at it.
But should the president be the one who's out front on this, tweeting like he has? I mean, the president of the United States.
President of the United States, the president of the United States, Stu. If he wants to tweet, he's going to tweet. That's the way it works here. I'm trying hard to move into my new position. I like to tweet. I love to tweet. I hope they let me.
Good luck with that one. It's a pleasure to see you again, sir.
Great.
We thank you very much for being on the show. Good luck, sir.
Appreciate it, Stu.
Yes, sir. Thanks very much.